I'm just glad that Benji finally got to wear a mask. Hey everybody, welcome to Mainly Movies. Today I'm going to be continuing my Mission Impossible review series with the 6th film in the franchise, 2018's action thriller, Mission Impossible Fallout. If you're new here, please consider subscribing for a variety of movie-related content, like reviews, rank lists, and trailer reactions. All my reviews include a breakdown of the pros and cons, my rating, and some tailored film recommendations, so be sure to watch through to the end of this video for all of that extra content. Mission Impossible Fallout stars Tom Cruise, Henry Cavill, and Rebecca Ferguson, and was directed by Kristoffer McQuarrie. It tells the story of IMF agent Ethan Hunt as he and his team race to find stolen plutonium before a terrorist group can detonate nuclear bombs. The trajectory that the Mission Impossible franchise has taken is a remarkable thing. Like most long-running franchises, it has changed over the years, but the degree of change that's occurred is something slightly less common. In fact, the only other franchise that has seen such a dramatic shift in the same time frame while retaining a character-based through-line is the Fast and Furious franchise. I know that might sound a little ridiculous to be bringing up Fast and Furious in a Mission Impossible review, but stick with me. At first glance, these two long-running franchises couldn't seem more different from one another. One has cars, and the other has spies, though they each dabble a bit in the other's territory at points. But the real similarity is in the structure of the franchise itself. The first film in each franchise was good, though fairly humble in its roots. Both franchises had low points early on, but both somehow managed to sustain themselves in spite of this. Then, counter to any logic, especially with regard to action franchises, both Mission Impossible and Fast and Furious began to improve. And not just a little improvement either. They significantly ramped up their action and stakes of their stories. Now obviously these are two very different franchises in most other regards, so I won't belabor the similarities anymore here, but this ramping up trend puts us in an interesting position as filmgoers. We come to expect that each new installment in the franchise is going to outdo the previous one, and so in order to keep us entertained and satisfied, the bar needs to be raised with each successive film. Although it didn't start off this way, Mission Impossible has evolved into an action franchise, and not just any action franchise, but one of the most consistently impressive action franchises of all time, so it only seems fitting to begin our discussion of Fallout by talking about the action. Now, there's no need to prevaricate or beat around the bush here. The action is spectacular. I've enjoyed the evolution of this franchise's action sequences since Mission Impossible 3, but Fallout is something else entirely. It's really hard to express how impressive it is. This film is full of action set pieces that would be the singular highlight of most other action movies. The amazingly filmed Halo skydiving sequence, the hard-hitting and entertainingly choreographed bathroom brawl, the extended truck-to-car-to-motorcycle chase, the exhilarating rooftop foot chase, the absolutely insane helicopter sequence. Just the creativity and visual aspects of these various action sequences are amazing, but it all takes on this additional level of utter awe when you realize that not only was just about every single stunt done practically, but that Tom Cruise did just about every one of those stunts himself, even breaking his ankle in the process, in a take that's actually used in the film. Everything feels so real, because it is. I could talk about the action for hours, but one of the things that most surprised me about this film was the story itself. Now, I thought Ghost Protocol was fantastic all around, and while I thoroughly enjoyed the action in Rogue Nation, I was less enamored with the plot. Fallout is a huge return to form in its story, and actually surpasses both of its predecessors in that regard. Despite its straightforward get-the-nuke surface plot, this film has a much more complex and nuanced story than I ever would have expected. As with the last few films in the franchise, Fallout explores the fallibility of Ethan Hunt quite a bit. He isn't just some perfect superhuman spy, but rather a regular guy with some very impressive skills. He makes mistakes, he does some questionable things, he fails, and he gets his ass kicked repeatedly. He falls, he crashes, he gets hurt, but none of that separates you from the character of Ethan Hunt, because it makes sense in the context of the story. He's in his late 50s, so the occasional physical difficulty is perfectly understandable, but he's also a character who's been grappling with the choices he's forced to make since Mission Impossible 3. He wants to complete his missions and protect the world, but he also has people he cares about, so the prospect of having to sacrifice one of them to save millions of people he doesn't know isn't the easiest choice for him anymore. Once again, the team dynamic in the film is a highlight. Part of what makes a long-running franchise enticing is being able to return to the same set of characters, in different scenarios and at different points in their lives. Although the team lineup is slightly different, this is the strongest the team dynamic has been since Ghost Protocol. Fallout features a great mix of old favorites like Luther and Benji, some recent returners like Ilsa Faust, and then interesting new characters like Agent Walker. The team initially has a bit more IMF support than they've had in the last few films, so gadgets and logistical support are plentiful, but eventually the team has to rely upon and trust only one another. Fallout has a slightly more serious tone overall than the last few films of the franchise, but it's not devoid of humor, something that usually accompanies the team interactions. Ethan's entertaining reactionary moments ahead of some of his more insane stunts, Luther humorously gesturing to himself, and then Benji when discussing who should pose as a mark. There are enough small moments of levity to keep things entertaining in the midst of the heavier character moments. 6 films into the franchise, and we've come to expect certain things. Mind-blowing action sequences? Check. Save the world espionage plot? Check. IMF masks to impersonate people? Check. Great cinematography? Wait, what? Although it's been impressive in the last couple films, good cinematography definitely wasn't something I went into Fallout expecting, but there it was. In fact, even on rewatch, I'm always struck by the camera movement and framing throughout. The tracking shot of the outdoor encounter between Ethan and Ilsa as they walk from the open sidewalk to the path under the trees, Ethan attempting to board a helicopter, backed by breathtaking vistas of the Himalayas, the shot of Ethan running up the circular stairs in the church. There are so many moments of unexpectedly satisfying visual symmetry strewn throughout this film. Combine that with the driving score, exhilarating tension, heart-pounding pace, and of course, the mind-blowing action, and you've got quite possibly the most exciting and well-made action film of the last decade. Alright, let's talk about the pros and cons. Pro number 1 is definitely the action. I know I sound a bit like a broken record praising the action in nearly all of the Mission Impossible movies, but it's truly spectacular here. Mission Impossible 3 saw the beginning of the current action ramp-up for the franchise, and each film manages to introduce more and more amazing stunts and action sequences. With these action franchises that continually outdo themselves with each new installment, there's always concern of hitting an eventual plateau, but I'm happy to say that that hasn't happened yet. And Fallout features some of the most entertaining and spectacular action set pieces I've seen. It's got a little bit of everything, really. A jaw-dropping Halo skydiving scene, a brutal hard-hitting bathroom fight, lengthy and entertaining chase sequences involving all manner of transportation, foot, car, truck, motorcycle, helicopter. It's even got an exhilarating rock climbing sequence. Any one of these scenes would be the highlight of any other movie, but Fallout gives us them all, and in keeping with franchise tradition, ensures that they're shot practically, with Tom Cruise doing his own insane stunts. The second pro is the pacing. After some opening exposition and stage setting, this movie takes off and never lets up. High-octane, fast pacing like this can be exhausting if done wrong, but this movie manages to keep you invested in the ride without being overly taxing. You'll probably need to catch your breath a few times, and remember to breathe a few other times, but it's never too much to handle. The driving score really helps with the pacing, aiding in building suspense and tying us from one intense moment to the next. The movie's 2.5 hours long, but with the number of things that happen and the exciting pace, you never feel the length. Pro number 3 is the story. Once the film gets underway, there's a deceptive simplicity to the plot. Things seem fairly straightforward, and the nuclear premise is reminiscent of Ghost Protocol, but it's not long before the story gains some nuanced complexity. Plans don't go accordingly, and so the story follows a twisty path as the team tries to accomplish their mission, while facing deception, sabotage, and a number of duplicitous characters. The film weaves this interesting narrative together with storylines and characters from past films to create a satisfying convergence point, and also to tell a more emotionally grounded story, focusing on Ethan Hunt's motivations and his fallibility. On the con side, my only issues are just minor nitpicks. It didn't stand out to me when I first watched the film in theaters, but the opening minutes of this movie are a bit rough on rewatch. I'm a pretty exposition-tolerant person, and I understand that a lot of information needs to be conveyed to the audience quickly, but the opening exposition dump and mission assignment borders on parody here, especially following the dream sequence opener. The film has a number of what I consider to be fake-out moments. One of these moments is great because it's part of a mission, but the other fake out moments target the audience instead, tricking us with dreams or hypothetical plan scenarios. It's not terrible, but it is a bit of an annoying plot device used a handful of times here. Before I give you my rating and recommendations, I want to remind you that if you're interested in buying Mission Impossible Fallout or any of the other films I mentioned today, I do have affiliate links for all of them in the description below. I get a small commission from anything you buy using one of my links, so I'd really appreciate it if you'd use them if you're in the market for any of these movies. I'm gonna give Mission Impossible Fallout 4.5 out of 5 paws. It's an exhilaratingly paced action spectacle that doesn't skimp on story. The team dynamics are back, the cinematography's top-notch, and did I mention the action? Oh, I did? Well, I'm gonna mention it a third time. The action. Fallout is easily one of the best action films of its decade. I would recommend Mission Impossible Fallout to anybody looking for a great action movie. It's a fantastic and satisfying film for fans of the franchise, connecting back to several of the previous films and addressing some important character development. But knowledge of those movies is not a prerequisite for watching this one. Fallout gives you all the important pieces of information you need to understand its plot and character relationships, but then triples down on exhilarating, mind-blowing action sequences that'll be entertaining and mesmerizing to just about anyone. If you liked Mission Impossible Fallout, I would recommend Top Gun Maverick. This is another exhilarating Tom Cruise-led action sequel that manages to surpass its predecessor. It too features some amazing practically shot aerial action sequences, and it's another very well-paced film that uses its action in service of the story. If you want another entertaining espionage film, you might want to check out The Man from U.N.C.L.E. Like Mission Impossible, it's based on a 60s spy TV show, and also features Henry Cavill in an espionage role. And if you'd like to stick with the Mission Impossible franchise, I'd suggest Mission Impossible 3. You could make a strong and very valid case for both Ghost Protocol and Rogue Nation 2, but Mission Impossible 3 was the film that really explored Ethan Hunt as a character, beyond just his espionage exploits. That character-based examination of motivation and fallibility comes back into play with Fallout in exciting and emotional fashion. Alright, a couple questions for you guys. Number 1, have you seen Mission Impossible Fallout? If so, what'd you think of it? And number 2, what movie features your favorite car chase? Be sure to leave your answers in the comments below so we can get a discussion going. Alright, so if you got some enjoyment, insight, or information on this review, I'd appreciate it if you'd hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, please hit subscribe here at it to see more videos like this. Till next time, this has been Alyssa with Mainly Movies, the way life should be.